Hey, welcome back to the Healthy Living Scottsdale podcast. I'm your host, Coach Zach. I am here with Coach Brandy and Coach Kaden, your amazing legacy team.
That's right.
That's right. I just figured I'd change it up a little bit.
I like it.
Just new year, new me.
Okay.
How we doing today, guys?
Doing awesome.
Doing awesome.
We're in here living the dream.
Kaden's always living the dream, right?
Never ends.
Never ends. Is it your dream or are you just in it?
Well, you know, you spend all day in the gym. I mean, there's no better place to spend your time.
That's true.
True.
That's true. I'm sure our listeners could probably think of a couple, but all right, guys. Today we're talking about tech neck. So basically, you know, what happens to your neck from all the tech. But before we do that, we want to give a shout out to a client of the week. This was Brandy's pick. So Brandy, I'll let you go ahead.
Yes, I want to shout out to Jamie Schulman. Jamie has been doing amazing. She's coming in really working hard during her workouts, not missing a training session, being really consistent. She's also focusing on her nutrition right now too. And I think pairing the nutrition with the strength training, she's really starting to see some of those changes and those results that she's really been working hard for. So shout out to Jamie. I know she's working hard and it's paying off.
Yeah. And she's kind of a typical situation that we see quite often, where people come in and it's like expectations are, you know, like, hey, I started working out. I'm feeling a little bit better. Like things should start moving, right? And it's only been like 2 weeks. And so at first she was kind of like, is this going to work? Is this not going to work? Feeling a little skeptical. And, you know, it doesn't take that long, but it's not immediate, right? So it's just a good perspective for everybody to keep in mind of hey, when you start doing the right things, like the right things are going to happen for you, probably not as fast as you want them to. It's like anything in life, right? You start investing, you're not going to be a millionaire overnight, right? It takes time, but you know, every time that you do a workout, every time you choose to eat the right thing and you're sticking to the structure and going to bed on time, getting enough sleep, like all of these things start to culminate, and then those results start coming, and it just feels so good. So yeah, shout out to Jamie, because not only is she working hard, but she's also a beautiful soul. So
she is.
Yeah, so cool. All right, guys, let's talk about tech neck. I noticed Brandy sat up nice and
Sitting
straight.
up very
Brandy
tall.
always
I have
has
good posture today.
Brandy always has good posture. She's always sitting like that. So I feel like I'm always like this over the table. Tech neck. Brandy, what is tech neck?
Tech neck. So tech neck is, I think, a newer term, but it's a term used for, you know, that posture you see when someone is, their upper back is kind of hunched over, kind of that hunchback look. Their head is jutted forward. Shoulders are rolled forward. So kind of that look where you're in this position where you're hunched over, as if you were. I mean, you imagine that position that you're in, and that most people are in for hours and hours throughout the day. Like if you think about
looking at their phone
on a computer, on a tablet, like, you know, so many hours of their day spent in that position, and then your body starts to change and adapt to the position that it spends most of its time in, and then you start to develop this tech neck, or this kind of hunchback position, also known as, you could call it like upper cross syndrome, or excessive kyphosis are other terms for it. But the tech neck is something that's more recent term that's being used because of the number of hours people are spending on their phone.
Yeah, and it's definitely an issue with younger people, but also has become an issue with middle-aged people as well. Old people get kyphosis anyway, right? Just from age and kind of stopping what it is, like their normal activities, and doing motions where they're pulling stuff to them versus just always being moving forward. But especially with youth, this is a really big issue. And if you think about it, it's like if you stood straight up, right? Everything on your body is pretty much just like stacked over itself, which is a very efficient position. Like your feet are holding a lot of weight, right? When it's like from the ground up, but it's like a skyscraper. Everything, they don't build skyscrapers at angles for a purpose. Like there's reason for that, right? So it's like your body is stacked up and it supports itself. The structure supports itself. But what happens if you keep your feet firmly planted on the floor and you bend at the hips and you lean forward? Now all of a sudden you immediately start to feel the like weight that you were holding up. Like it's hard, and if you lean too far forward, you probably will tip over, right? Like, yeah. And so your head, like you can think of your neck, not very big compared to your head. Your head weighs quite a bit, like 8 to 10 pounds. An average of
11 pounds.
Oh, 11 pounds.
Before the podcast.
Some heads are bigger than others, right? And then you think about the fact that you're basically doing that same position, but just with this small portion from the shoulders up. Your head is forward. That's a lot of weight that your neck and your cervical spine is holding up. And it's no wonder that people have issues from that.
Right. Neck pain, low back pain, hip pain, like, hamstring pain and tightness, all stemming from that posture.
Yeah. Caden, you're a student. You're still going to school. So like you're in the gym a lot of your day, right? But then you're on a computer, right? You're reading textbooks. You're probably looking at your phone some, like a decent amount, right? Do you notice that you like are in this position more often than you should be?
Yeah, no, I definitely do. So I started doing classes maybe 2-3 months ago now, and I hadn't done any schooling since 2019. And in these last couple of months, I mean, even I'm going to say my traps have started to tighten up on me. I'm going to say more consistently. I'm running into headache issues at times. So I'm going to say I'm starting to be a lot more conscious about where I've got my laptop set up, where I'm reading my textbook at, and the posture that I do have as I'm working through my classes.
Yeah, and a couple of months, right? It doesn't take that long for you to be in that position for several hours a day for it to start to have negative side effects. And then, just overall, our society is in front of screens so much, right? So it's not necessarily just this one thing. I mean, you could think about like being on your phone, but maybe you're only on your phone for 2 hours a day and it's spread out throughout the day. And so you're, in this position with your head down looking at your phone, probably not that big of a deal in and of itself. But then you add in the fact that you're at work and you're sitting in front of a computer. Maybe you're not in a like ergonomic position at work, or you're not set up correctly, or you work from home and sometimes you're sitting on the couch doing your work and your laptop's on your, like sitting on your waist, on your lap, right? And you're just working and you're not really paying attention to all these things. And then you go home or you are at home and you sit on the couch and you watch TV and like you're constantly in this head down position versus being like head up position. And it's the totality of that. It's all those hours that are adding up, and you're spending way more time in a head down position than you are like a head up position. Your neck is designed to move. Mm-hmm. Like every different position that you can put your head in, you should put your head in, right? But the issue is always being in the same position for extended periods of time, day in and day out.
Right.
And that's where we start to see the issues. Yeah. So what does somebody do? Like, what are some steps that somebody can take to just make sure that they're gonna avoid tech neck?
A couple of things that people can do to start out is, when you are using your phone, you can lift your phone up. So you're holding it in front of your face rather than down. So you're kind of in a position where you're looking down. So hold the phone up when you're using your phone.
You probably spend less time on your phone too, because your arms are going to get tired.
That's right. Think about your posture, and just be aware of what position you're in throughout the day. If you do work at a desk, or if you're, online going to school, you can invest in a sit-stand desk, or ask your employer to consider that for you, so that you're in a position where you can raise your laptop and your screen so it's in front of you. And then also that has the benefit of allowing you to move throughout the day from a sitting position to a standing position, and just being really aware of that posture when you're driving. That's another place where people tend to go into that neck jutted forward posture. So as you're driving, be really aware of that, and you can practice like sitting up tall while you're driving, even kind of without lifting your chin up, but your chin in a neutral position, and just kind of pressing your head back like into the seat. That'll help you to sit in that upright position. So those are some things that you can do. You can do actual neck exercises to help improve your posture, where you're going through that full range of motion, moving your head forward and back, side to side, up and at an angle, and then down and at an angle throughout the day.
Kaden, what are some exercises that, not necessarily that somebody like would do to fix tech neck, but what are some exercises that are already like in our program that we just have built in that are supporting people's posture and, maybe countering some of the poor positions that they're putting themselves in?
So I'm going to say probably the biggest movement that comes to my mind first is going to be anytime that we're doing any kind of cable rows, TRX rows, anything that causes us to pull the shoulders back and pinch through our shoulder blades. That's going to be something that's going to be awesome for counteracting or counterbalancing everything getting pulled forward there.
That's a hard thing for people to do when they're new too, is figure out how to like retract their scapula. So basically like taking your shoulder blades and squeezing them in towards each other and somewhat down. Very difficult movement for people to learn how to do. But that's like when we're doing like a row, that's a position that we're trying to get people into in order to like get their shoulder and their back muscles engaged and prevent that head from like just wanting to be forward all the time, right? I think it's important to note too is that the neck is designed to move, and like your head goes in all these different positions. There's no one that's wrong. Okay. But most of the time the shoulders are the cause of neck pain. And so it's not isolated to the neck. It's also the shoulders that are contributing. And so, we'll see when people are at their desks, like they're shrugged, like their shoulders are up towards their ears, or maybe their keyboard isn't in the correct position, and so their shoulders now aren't in a good position, and they're isolated. They're not moving throughout the shoulders, because like a proper typing position is like you basically kind of just like tuck your elbows in and like your hands are here on the keyboard and you're just going like this, and you're not moving your shoulders ever. So it's important for people to understand, like Brandy, you're saying, hey, you can stretch your neck and move your neck in these different positions, but it's also important to get up and move your shoulders and activate the, especially like the back muscles, like rows or any type of mobility stuff with your shoulders to prevent things from seizing up on you.
Yeah. And that can happen. I've seen, even here in the gym, to the point where like the kyphosis is so excessive that people have a hard time. Some people have a hard time when they're lying flat on the ground, on their back. They cannot put their head on the ground. Like they're in that position, and their body has adapted to that position, and so that they have a really hard time like relaxing their neck in a neutral position, so that they cannot lay flat on the floor.
Yeah, we see that quite a bit actually. So, and sorry, but like if somebody, the issues here, like we're talking headaches. People are going to get tension headaches all the time from this. There can be a lot of shoulder issues, like frozen shoulder and things that stem from poor shoulder mobility. And then any type of, like, your neck moves in all these different positions. If you aren't moving it in those positions and it becomes very stiff, you're prone to some sort of injury, right? And so your cervical spine is very, like, your cervical spine and your neck muscles are very sensitive. And that's why you hear, like, somebody gets in a car accident, right? And they have some sort of cervical damage, and they struggle with that for their whole entire life. So it's very important that we're doing what we can to combat that, so that you're not going to go through life like constantly having to deal with neck pain.
Right.
Yeah. So, all right. Do not put your head down for 10 hours a day staring at whatever device it is that you're using. Like, also, just going through life with your head down is probably not ideal, just from a life perspective, right? It's like when you're looking down, that's where you're going when you die. So it's like, maybe maybe like get your head up, look up, like enjoy the scenery, and, take a deep breath, and don't walk into a pool because you're not paying attention to where you're going. Good for the body, good for, the whole body too. So, all right, guys, that's all we got for you this week. We'll be back next week with more great stuff. Thank you so much for listening to the Healthy Living Scottsdale podcast. Do you have a question that you'd like for us to answer live on the podcast? If so, all you need to do is head over to the Apple Podcast app on your iPhone and do 3 simple things. First, leave us a rating and review telling me what you think of the podcast. In that review, ask anything you want related to health, fitness, or nutrition. And if you want a shout out, leave us your Instagram handle or name. That's all you have to do. Then listen to hear your questions answered live on the next Q&A episode.